Hi, I'm Paul Warren,
And I'm Ryan Klein.
and this is another episode of SEO's Dead and Other Lies. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. For everyone that can't see this right now, Paul, you have a really lovely shirt on right now. It's very floral.
It's Floral Fridays, bringing it back.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
Very cool.
it was a big thing at one of the last places I worked. Everyone in the
Oh,
whole
that
office
did
would
ring a bell.
wear it.
Wait, was it
Yeah.
because of our guest last week that mentioned Floral Fridays, or just is it something we've
Did
mentioned?
he mention that? I think
I don't know.
I don't think
But now
so.
it's ringing a
Yeah.
bell.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm bringing it back. Light and airy on a very rainy day here in Central Florida,
Sure,
which
you're
is
already
nice.
used to it.
It's a perfect day to do SEO and to talk about SEO because there's no real need to go outside.
Oh, it's pretty sunny from what I can see, but can't see
Well,
everything.
we have a pretty good episode today. We're going to talk about the use of AI in SEO. I think particularly I guess some of these are some of the things that you could do on your own if you were like an independent contractor. But a lot of this will be from the perspective of an agency, right? Because that's where our experience is right now, and how we use AI in our own agencies to handle everyday tasks or larger tasks for clients. So we're going to really get into it, talk about how we use it, maybe talk a little bit about prompts. I don't know. We can go a little bit into that and just give you guys some ideas of how you might be able to utilize it yourself. So, Ryan, what's your go-to API or not API? What's your go-to AI?
Right now, I mean, I'm using just good old Open API, ChatGPT. I haven't even really had the time to explore the 4.0, but yeah, that seems to be kind of the go-to for the team. I know
It,
that the content team has been messing around with some other things, but
it's almost a foregone conclusion at this point because you're this
yeah,
everyone's just going to use that. I think I've ever used Bard that still exists. Has Google closed it down yet? I don't know. Any
no,
day.
it's getting close. It became buddy buddy with Google Plus and some other stuff, so maybe it's a matter of time. But when you see a particular tool yielding adequate results and only getting better as you tweak the prompts, you tend to not to look for an alternative right away.
Price point's pretty good too.
Yeah, like
Um,
what, like $2 a week
yeah,
or something.
it's almost nothing really. I mean, it's more expensive than that depending on how much you use it, but it's pretty cheap. So let's dive into just some of the basic ways that you're using it. So I think you mentioned before in a conversation outside of out of this podcast that you're using it to transcribe meeting notes.
Yeah, sure. So I know this conversation today, some is going to be in practice, some has been in practice for a bit. We'll probably talk about a few of my hypotheticals. Again, these are things that I perceive AI as being boundless. So when I think of it, I'm like, it's a matter of the prompt. If it's in my head, AI should be able to do this, but I'll save that for later. As far as maybe some of the non-SEO stuff, content was always the first thing people thought of. Everyone's jobs are at risk. We've been messing around with that for well over a year now. It was kind of crap, a year ago. Then you realize maybe it's not so much the AI as it was the prompting. You could do a podcast on that alone. So we'll all talk about tidbits there. But yeah, there's an AI tool called Fathom that's been really great for the account management team. They have it,
Hmm.
the quote note taker on every single meeting, listens in, eavesdrops, if you will, and transcribes it. And then once you wrap up, it's only a matter of seconds, maybe minutes, that it actually provides a really accurate summary, bulleted, with takeaways, which
That
is
would
really
have
helpful.
saved me a lot of time from when I was an intern back in the day, a marketing intern, and I had to take meeting notes and send it out in an email afterwards to everyone in the meeting,
Even the
which
minutes.
I'm sure that they didn't even read or care about. So
Yeah, the days of doing quote minutes in a meeting should be done. So there are things that entering this year, the existence of those, conventional, longstanding business activities should be a thing of the past.
yeah, so good old meeting minutes. So probably the easiest thing to automate here with AI to send out pretty quickly to your clients. Does it make bolded points for it if you tell it, or does it just no?
I think it already knows. And
Oh,
I've read the summaries and they're surprisingly accurate. Also, if you, I guess, upgrade some accounts, what you can do is have another layer of, I guess you could say, accountability, where anything that sounded like an action item within the meeting, and maybe when you're in a meeting, there's an emphasis on it. Like to recap, we're going to A, B, C, D, and then it transcribes it and actually makes a checkbox. So that's interesting, is that it make it really easy for
That is
follow-up
pretty
and to be
cool.
assigning
That
tasks.
that does sound pretty cool. Like a really
Hmm.
a good use of AI to make your life easier.
Truly.
All
So
right.
that's happening with account management, and that's a quick win for anyone listening that's in meetings consistently.
And what was the AI you use again called for
That one
that?
was Fathom.
Fathom. Yeah.
I don't know if it's Fathom.ai. If you were to search Fathom and AI, I'm sure you'll
Mhm.
find it very quickly.
Is it free or do you have to pay? I guess
Uh,
freemium.
I think that the free version does quite a bit. The reason we upgraded, I'm sure it's fairly cheap, is I think for like the check boxes and then making it good to go as far as taking action afterwards, maybe an
Mhm.
upgrade. Also, we were experimenting with it for just straight up uploading audio to transcribe as well. So that's like another thing. We used to use, well, still do for now, but rev.com, remember, has been really nice for like human generated transcripts. But these transcripts of AI are uh, so on point that I'd have to say there's too many solutions to kind of perhaps advocate for rev.com anymore. If it's not Fathom AI, Otter AI, I think
Otter
is
AI.
pretty
Yeah.
is pretty good. The only thing I can't recommend them necessarily because they did a weird thing with sharing my information with other email accounts, and that's a whole different story. But I think
Well,
they're
good reason not to
not
recommend
very
them, I
good with
guess.
data.
Yeah. So Fathom AI or .com. One of the two.
Sure,
Just Google it. You'll figure it out. So the next is a little, I think, a step further in the whole SEO process and a little more complicated, and that's using it for on-page analysis. So sort of in the hypothetical, right? Because it's something that you're starting to implement.
that is correct, Paul. So we're working on the prompts there, and I know that there's always been tools. I'm sure that's been components of the players we always talk about like Ahrefs and SEMrush and them doing or probably Yoast doing like automated reports and whatnot. But we're seeing more examples or use cases with the proper prompts, just like exporting CSVs that are basically like your suggested titles and descriptions for 800 pages at once, and if they're not exactly word for word, character by character, what we're looking for, it's certainly a huge time saver and a great start.
So what does a prompt for that look like?
I have no idea.
Is it like
Nobody's looking
go to
better.
this URL for this page? Like you're like bulk uploading a bunch of like URLs from a spreadsheet or something?
Well, the thing is, you can upload CSVs, so
Yeah.
you can upload. It can export that way. You can upload, I think, docs, Notepad. You can upload this data and it'll analyze it.
Yeah.
So yeah, as long as it's organized properly in a format it can understand. Um, the short, longish answer is eventually you're going to put together a prompt that gets the outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah. So I guess if I'm trying to do this, what I guess I'm starting at the data, which maybe it's a uh, what's that? Maybe it's like a screaming frog pool, right? Like
Hmm.
scan, and then I'm uploading like that file of like all the URLs and saying like or just saying like check this metadata and return, find anything where it's like duplicate optimized or anything like that. So just really like taking the place of if you were looking at Screaming Frog, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be Screaming Frog, whatever the output is. I generally like copy and paste and clean up a sitemap, an XML, which is probably more time than just frankly the Screaming Frog.
Yeah.
But for anyone that's not really in there asking ChatGPT relatively straightforward questions, it's able to produce a good starting point for most things with minimal information. So, for example, when we were a little concerned about like keyword cannibalization or like why is this page ranking for this keyword when this one was supposed to, and just asking it simple questions like, please analyze these two links, list out the links and say what are some of the similarities, and then it actually, the output, the starting point is actually not that bad, and it actually probably the whole point of this is not to necessarily replace work, but it certainly is to have a mindset of saving a lot of time. Is
Yeah,
that's
like
the starting point.
the time of kind of scanning through things and lumping things together manually, you can just automate it. I wonder if you could ask it to like summarize every page by its Google entity, and if it would know how to do that.
What's
Maybe that's
great
something
is
you,
that you
you
could
would
just
use.
ask it.
Yeah, maybe you use Bard for something like that, actually, since it is a Google property. That would be a pretty cool thing to do because we entities are important for ranking, especially now based off um, that data that came out, the
Right.
secret school squirrel club data that came from Google. Um,
Is that what it's being called?
yeah, yeah, everything super secret squirrel club. Um, so okay, so cool way to do it. I think for anyone listening, you got to play around with a lot of different prompts. The more specific you can be. What's great is like it's not generating a ton of content and where you're like limited by like the word count, which we are about to talk about content creation.
Mm.
Because I think that is how most people think about using ChatGPT for marketing purposes, right? So with that, let's just dive in. I got a little bit of experience doing it. I don't think any of that stuff ranks anymore that I had 100% written by ChatGPT.
Oh, is that
Um,
like the Zim writer approach that we tried and it was according to the standards maybe like 6 or 9 months ago?
yeah, this was, I think, longer than that. This was back in 2022.
Oh, okay.
Some of the stuff that I published, but it was about an 800 or 1,000 word article written completely by ChatGPT where I learned some pretty good prompts and it did get indexed and a lot of them did rank, but they don't rank anymore, I've noticed, because I think Google's updated its algorithm to sort of detect things that are written specifically by
The
AI.
old AI.
Yeah, and not
Yeah.
like location specific AI, but like, like long form content AI. But I think you guys have developed a little bit more sophistication around writing using it to create content.
Yeah, it was never supposed to replace what we haven't going on with our processes. I mean, we still have an in-house team that looks exactly the same as it has as far as the amount of people. Um, so we started off by just like that mindset. This is going to replace everything. The content was poor. It became more sophisticated, like asking for certain sections. So if we're talking about a page of a website, the intro or a hook, or specifically a call to action in the second paragraph, or the last call to action, or a subsection. Like it was very specific, and then the writer can kind of fill in the rest. Now I think we've got a lot more sophisticated. So we're creating environments. I guess that's the best way of saying it.
Yeah.
So you instead the prompt is like a clean slate. There's a prompt, but on the back end, there's a lot of specifications unique to that client or that website. So you'll look at it and you won't see that there's 2 pages or I guess maybe like 1,000 words of instructions that like precede the prompt. So then when you enter the prompt, it takes those instructions and how it relates to all the instructions you've given to it previously. So you don't have to give it the same copy and paste the same instructions over and over again. So that's
Yeah.
been a good starting point.
I, so I would give in my prompts I would give the AI like a personality to write from and it would be
Yeah.
like different every time and it would be pretty granular like it would be like you have 7 years of marketing experience. You're more towards the senior level. You went to college at UCLA and you graduated in 2021 or
Really?
something like that.
With
Yeah.
a 2.3 GPA though?
I'll give it like a really detailed background and you'll get a really detailed like writing response if you do that. So I set the scene, and it's like you're writing for this person and they have this website and this is what the owner wants and like I imagine it's almost too detailed. And the AI is like, I don't care. It just wants to
I
blow its
like the
brains out because it's
persona.
bored.
Have you ever done one where it's like you're sitting in a dingy bar, you can feel the the uh the cherry of the cigarette start to burn your middle and index finger.
I
You can
haven't
smell
done
a waft of
a
disinfectant
physical.
and stale beer.
I haven't done a physical location, but it sounds like an Ernest Hemingway novel. There's so much detail, it just can't handle it. But I will try that. That sounds like pretty funny to try.
Yeah,
Um,
your heart is
but
beating.
yeah, so you really still kind of just use it to identify um specific parts of content, not necessarily write the whole content.
So yeah, well, oftentimes we'll specify with like the lot of instructions. Instructions are use would, could instead of should. Background. This is always going to be for this state. Maybe there's a little bit of a persona. It's a lot of do's and don'ts. and then yeah, it'll say write 300 words up to 300, 350 words related to the section, and
Hmm.
then we kind of make sure that it flows with the tone that exists, and then therefore it supplements a lot of the content. There's parts of content that are really monotonous, and frankly, it's very difficult for a writer to write it any better than a
Oh
well
yeah.
detailed
I
AI.
I mean, with local, it's the same thing over and over again, but with a different city and state for the most part, right? So it's if you had like 1,000 locations, it's impossible to have a writer write that because they would just quit before they got to
Yeah,
that, and it wouldn't
it's
be worth the
mine. It's
money.
mine. I mean, I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it in-house. It's rough, except I did it for like logistics and uh the internal organizational structure of factories.
Now, are you using it to create any additional types of content? Let's say like video or infographics or, imagery or
Yeah,
stuff like
we
that.
are messing around with AI videos.
Yeah.
They're interesting. I think it does the imagery, it does the transitions, it can do a voiceover. I think that it's a few steps, but that is a capability that certainly exists. And infographics, AI did a pretty poor job months ago, but I think with the new update, I think it's becoming
It's
pretty
better.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much, I guess I'm not even thinking of like the traditional infographic concept, which is, you make a page that has an embed for it and you try and get links from it. When I say infographics now, I really just mean like cool stuff that you can put within an article and make it better, right? Because
That's
I
pretty
don't,
much my definition too.
yeah, I
Just a
don't,
more dynamic way of presenting mostly data and statistics.
I don't know how much more value I don't know how much value there is still in having a traditional infographic strategy like they did back in the day.
Oh, I almost feel like it's next to none, but I like the idea of presenting content in as many ways as possible if it can be expedited by AI. So if it's, the text and then it's imagery and that's infographic and then it can do an AI video and then it can actually grab it and do summary audio and the audio doesn't sound like a robot, it sounds semi-human. I think that that's probably the direction it's going in.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that as well, and I think people like different variations of content, and they kind of get annoyed when there's just one. And the example I like to give is sometimes you'll see like something in the news, and when you click on it, it's just a video. Like there isn't an article
Oh
about
yeah.
what the news thing
Right.
is, and you're like, this could have just been an article. I don't want to sit and watch like one. I have to watch an ad before it, and then eventually they get to like what they're
That's
talking about, and then
that's got to be the reason they're pushing it, the
so
pre-roll.
yeah. So, but whenever I would do like blog posts, and I did a lot of like DIY types of stuff in like the tech space, we always did a video to go along with the actual blog post itself, and it drove a lot of clicks and views of the video, and kept a lot of people time on page on like the actual article. So it was like a win-win for both things. So the video would rank really well, and the article would rank really well, which was great.
That's
Um,
what we're looking for.
yeah. So I
So
think if you can easily do it with AI. What are you guys using for that? So I don't even know what's the best tool for
I
AI
think they're all
videos.
ChatGPT prompts.
Still? Yeah.
To my knowledge, it's not another tool. Will there be or should there be? Of course, I'm sure that there's dozens of tools out there that say they specialize in audio and video, and then they just plunk a well-designed website on top of ChatGPT. I mean, at the end of the day, when we heard about like all these data AIs and we saw something flooding the market every week, 10, 20 new tools. At the end of the day, I don't see how they're not just, a fancy veneer for just doing ChatGPT.
Now, are you using it to find like outdated content that needs to be updated? And like because we've talked about this in some previous podcasts about, let's say you have stats from 2020 on an article and you haven't updated anything, right? Like, are you using it to sort of identify those and find the updated stats?
I think we started doing that. So there's two steps to that, and they're both AI related, but I'll be mentioning a tool for the first time or maybe second time that's not ChatGPT. So yeah, you can crawl a website and say, please export a CSV of every page that mentions a date of 2020 and before. And with a couple of tweaks, I'm pretty sure you'll get just that. But when you go to update it, there's a handy tool called Consensus. I'm sure it's consensus.ai or something like that. And what it'll do is you'll type in the kind of statistics you're looking for, and it does a really nice job laying out all the options. It'll say like what the source is, who the author is, and then what date it's from. so you don't have to like guess or click through every single one and be like, oh, it's 1988, you jerk. Like, I don't need something 15 years older than what I already have. And then it'll say, 2022, and you go, great. And then you can actually physically go in with information provided and do the updates accordingly. So that's nifty. And for anyone that's not doing external linking to reputable sources in general, it's helpful. So if you have a poorly executed external linking strategy to like reliable sources, EDUs, govs, other places, you can use consensus to help facilitate that as well.
Well, that's pretty cool and a really great way to use it. And I think super relevant right now to the
Yeah.
updates, that just the helpful content updates that just come out. All right, so we've covered a few ways that you're using it. Are there any hypothetical ways that you have planned to use AI in the future and at scale?
I think we're almost done rolling out some some ChatGPT prompts for generating schema at scale. So we have some of the team that's schema specialist, and he's pretty much setting the parameters that if you give it the URL, it'll write all the schema exactly how we would have. And so that's a good one. There's also, I'm not sure if you've spoken to an individual in our team, but he's messing around with some other new or appears to be relatively new schema that's related to like geo shapes.
Yeah, I've talked to him and I've seen it, so it'll be interesting to see how it works.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. So that'll feel like there's a lot of unknowns, at least from where I'm seeing for this one, because the team is going um, kind of knee deep into the whole AI game. But yeah, schema will be really helpful as far as generating all that because, frankly, even if it's a template, writing schema is a little tedious, and so it'd be nice to have
Oh,
ChatGPT kind of assist with that.
for sure, 100%. It's one of the most tedious things, especially if you're doing it at scale.
Yeah.
That it can, and especially the type of schema that we create, it's a little more unique than like just the standard stuff. Like we'll find a lot of additional entities to put in to the schema that are related to that topic or that person or whatever. So there's a lot of manual work that goes into something like that.
I
Not
think
just your
it
standard location schema.
No, absolutely not. I think that I saw a couple examples of it automatically generating like thing attributes, and it'd be like thing this, and it's all same as real and creating all these relations. I guess we haven't really been talking about entity SEO in a while, but I'd imagine that creating that association is helpful.
For sure. Yeah, that's the whole idea behind uh, building your schema out like that, right? And then
Mhm.
inputting those entities in there.
Cool. So that's going on. And then link building is, one of those frontiers that, SEO has already struggled with doing that at scale as it is. So if there's, anything that we can focus on and start tinkering around with some of the prompts to see what its capabilities are, I think that'll be, the next step. I don't necessarily know if we have to do that in tandem with like Ahrefs for the SEMrush, like link building, or link
So,
reports.
so you're talking about like getting a backlink report from another tool and then uploading that data through CSV into like ChatGPT and asking it to find opportunities that way.
Yeah, or draw correlations or giving it some additional information to prioritize the list or apply some sort of values to it. But basically, um, utilizing ChatGPT as a way to help SEOs take action from the link reports, something of that
I
nature.
gotcha. Yeah, so really doing the analysis, not necessarily, I guess you can't really replace a link crawling service like SEMrush or Ahrefs with it at this point. Maybe you
Yeah,
can.
I don't
Maybe
know.
you
I've
can.
never
Maybe there's
asked
some
it.
add-ons for it.
Give me a backlink analysis for this website.
I've
I mean, I
never
just don't
asked
think
it
it does
that.
that.
Yeah. But at the very least, anything that I think you can get SEO related that's like a large bulk type of document, and there's a ton of things like that. I mean, there's data straight from GA that you can pull out of there, right? Um,
hmm hmm
but anything that you need help identifying things, like spotting trends or things that stand out that you would normally spend time doing, you can use ChatGPT to find those things pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. It's always going to have another extremely quick pair of eyes to kind of parse through data and draw, you know, parallels and whatnot.
Yeah. I definitely don't use the built-in AI for local Falcon for anything though. So
Were you just saying that preemptively so I didn't ask you how you think local Falcon's AI is going?
yeah, just so you know, yeah, I don't use it for anything. In fact, I've looked at the responses before and shown it to clients, and they're like, "Well, okay, so if I get this, that means I'll have this from it." And I'm like, "Well, no, not really. I guess you probably shouldn't put that in there." It's like,
They're without a doubt, they're observations, not suggestions.
yeah,
They
they
basically
are just
say you have
observations.
less reviews than your competition. It's like I know. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's pretty. I mean, I guess it's a pretty nifty little trick and additional content to add into something, but most of the suggestions are pretty useless. I think the only thing that they do say is like you're missing this category and this other competitor has this category, so you could be like, okay, that's actionable. I
something
can I can do that,
marginal.
but yeah, but
Okay,
most of the other stuff is like just telling you what you're looking at. So
that's fair.
yeah. Okay. Well, I think we covered this topic pretty well. If you're listening, I hope you got some use out of it, maybe had some different ideas of how you could use AI to, make your life a little easier, cut down on some time for some SEO tasks that you have, right? And just maybe just do a better job in general. Because I know a lot of these things are very time consuming.
Hmm.
And anytime you can cut down on monotonous work, I think is better for everyone. And what better way to use AI than that?
Agreed.
Yeah. So I just wanted to thank everyone for listening. We really appreciate all of our listeners. If you'd like to ask us a question or have a topic for us to cover, you can reach out to us at seoisdeadandotherlies@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe anywhere that you listen to this podcast. And just remember, when you have a friend that has a website and asks you to do SEO for free, make sure to log into WordPress and go into Yoast and mark everything as no index, no follow. And with that, I'm Paul Warren,
It's good advice. And I'm Ryan Klein.
and this has been another episode of SEO's Dead and Other Lies. Bye.
Bye.